It's Primus Tracks with Josh and Frankie.
What a couple of dumb shits.
His name is Beanpole. That's Mr. Beanpole to you. His name is Beanpole.
Our guest today was a member of the Spent Poets, but is also the brains behind the demented music of Beanpole, which finally gained a legitimate release in 2018 after decades in the shadows. And it pleasures me to say, Derek Greenberg, welcome to Primus Tracks.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For the guy who is the brains behind Beanpole, you're astonishingly calm. It's such frenetic music, and we definitely will get into that.
Yeah.
My gosh, I mean, Beanpole is one of these things for a guy like me now, as a kid, learning of Beanpole in those strange days of the late 90s of file trading and seeing things that maybe didn't have the right name on it, but being told it was Beanpole and going, this is strange, and this is Primus? What? I love it. To be here in 2021 talking to you with an actual Beanpole album that's been out for a couple of years, it's kind of blowing my mind, but I know, Frankie, this is a big day for you, pal.
Yeah, totally.
And you have tons of questions. Well, we were talking a little bit beforehand, Derek, and can we start with how you met the guys, Adam, Matt, Weiniger, Les, and Larry? And it seems like, did you grow up in the Bay Area, and were you?
I did. I grew up in the Bay Area, and really the story of how I met each of them is the story of Beanpole in a way.
Oh.
Because Beanpole, well, the way I look at it is Beanpole really is a collective of my friends who are musicians. And, I kind of met people along the way for various reasons. Various things happened. But Beanpole kind of came out of all that.
Okay.
So I'll begin with Adam because he's really like the first person I met. I met Adam when he was in 7th grade. And we formed a band.
Wow.
As a freshman in high school. And we've been in bands ever since. All kinds of bands, playing around the Bay Area, all the clubs, like all the time. Mm-hmm. Eventually, it became the Spent Poets,
right?
And that was kind of more of a professional band, and that's how I met Matt Weiniger. Of course, he came on board.
Right.
But even before the Spent Poets were formed, I knew about Primus because as we were playing around various clubs, we often opened for them, and Adam became friends with them like right away. They just hit it off. I wasn't like directly friends with them. Like I was friendly with them and I love those guys and I loved watching them play live. But it was really mostly Adam's connection with Les and Larry. That was sort of how I ended up connecting with Primus. It was all through Adam. And then I had 2 high school friends, Jeff, Tom, and also Darren, other 3 people in Beanpole. Who are on most of the tracks.
Okay.
So, and again, they're all just high school friends, and we're all playing together and doing music together, that kind of thing. But that's pretty much how I met everybody.
A lot of it was through the scene. It just blows me away that you were hanging with Adam in 7th grade, for crying out loud. But wow, way back. But that idea of I often ask about the Bay Area scene at the time because you guys were living it. I guess you guys were playing music at that time, and maybe you just naturally gravitated towards it and got into it that way, it seems. Were you seeking that out as well as a music fan?
Well, I mean, you're talking about like the bands that I was in?
Yeah, that and the bands in the Bay Area at the time, because that scene was just exploding in the 80s and early 90s.
I was usually along for the ride.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I really wasn't so much part of the scene. Adam was. Adam's the social person. He's the one who connects. He's the connector.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of the quiet guy who, kind of went along with it, played bass or guitar or whatever when needed and sang a little. But I was never the kind of person to go out and like, hey, let's hit the clubs. Let's go see all these bands. It was more like we played a lot of shows and a lot of small clubs around the Bay Area. And so I would always, of course, watch all the bands. And that's how I knew about the scene. But I really wasn't that social.
And that's so interesting to me that, and there are plenty of people who are more introverted who have no problem performing on stage. And that's an interesting dichotomy to a degree. So instead of hitting the clubs, I mean, are you hanging out at home mostly and listening to music and studying music and writing the music? Like, is that Was that your main thrust there?
That was my main thing. That's exactly what it was. For a long time, that's probably all I did. It seems, in between working, was practicing. I practiced like crazy on guitar. It was my main instrument.
Okay.
But I got into writing. Of course, I always kind of wrote songs, but I got seriously into writing around 86 maybe. It's where I started to take it very seriously. And I'm like, I really have to learn how to write good songs because I don't know how to do that. And in a weird way, that's kind of where Beanpole came from. That's about how it kind of got launched.
In the sense that it was your testing ground for some songs?
What happened was, I'll tell you about the very first real Beanpole song that was ever recorded.
Okay.
Maybe this will add some clarity. I think it really all started in 83 when I was going to UC Davis with my friend Darren Wilson, who's a keyboardist, and he still plays with Beanpole. And he had access to the music lab there. And because he was in the music program. And one night, really late at night, he says, "Hey, Derek, let's go over to the music lab. They have tape recorders." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
No. Yeah, they have these 2 4-track reel-to-reel machines. And what you can do is you can record, 4 tracks on one and then record it over to one of the tracks on the other. Right. And then you have the other 3. So it's like Beatles style, like, 4-track to 4-track transfer. I'm all, that sounds great. So we go over there and we don't have any instruments really other than a giant Buchla synthesizer, which Darren was learning how to program. It doesn't even have a keyboard. It's just, plugging in switches and wires. And a synclavier, a really early one that could only do something like FM synthesis. Didn't even have samplers or anything. And that's all we had.
Wow.
The mixing console just had volume. It's like hardly anything else. And balance. It was like so primitive. No effects, nothing. And we had borrowed a microphone from a friend. And that's all we had, like one microphone and us in the room. So Darren said, "All right, what do we do?" And I go, "Well, I wrote a song just for this. Let's record it." And it's called Judge Wapner.
Wow.
And that recording, which is on the album, was from 83. Me and Darren Wilson in the music lab, our very first recording.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Wow.
That's where it all started. What that song did was it kind of set some of the patterns that would use for the rest of the Beanpole songs, like the lyrics. There's the thing about Beanpole lyrics, you may have noticed, but this is what's going on with the lyrics most of the time, is that they're often sung from the point of view of somebody who assumes that everybody around them understands their absurd reality.
Right. Yes.
That's the thing. It's like, granted that, of course, I love Judge Wapner because one day he's going to be my wife. It's like, what? That makes no sense. What? And that's the idea. Is that there's all these characters in these songs that just sort of do that. So Judge Wapner launched it, and I'm like, I'm not going to explain what's going on in this person's head. I'm going to just let that person talk about how they feel. Wow. And Darren was super into it. He's like, "Let's go." So he programmed all the crazy synthesizer sounds, all that. That's all Darren, and that was it. And we mixed down to a normal bias old cassette tape, and from that, the song on the album got mastered.
Derek, I have a couple of questions about Judge Wapner now that you brought that song up. The first one is that I noticed that on New Year's Eve 2018, you performed a really cool coda for the song live, which is not present on the record. So was that due to the limitations of how it was recorded? I mean, that you could not expand more on the track? Or, did you just come up with that instrumental portion when you were rehearsing for New Year's Eve?
The latter. The way it got recorded is exactly what I wanted. It's exactly as it was written. And it was all worked out in advance. There was no improv. But when we played live with a real group of really good musicians, we kind of felt like we have to have fun with this. We have to like kind of, go crazy. And so, the live versions are very different from the recorded versions. They all have codas. In fact, almost all the songs we have. because it's fun, and it gets crowd jumping around. And
Wow.
I'm also curious about the backstory to the song, because you shared it prior to performing the song on New Year's Eve. But I'm wondering if it's true, or if you just made it up on the spot.
Okay, yes. Thanks for asking. The Beanpole band, there was a band in like the late 90s with most of the people you saw on stage at the New Year's Eve show at the Fillmore, but not Larry and not Matt Weiniger, but other, everybody else was there. And we played around the Bay Area. And whenever it was time to do Judge Wapner, I would tell a story. And they got weirder and weirder. And so it is improv. And so that at that point I said, I'm going to do whatever pops in my head. So, I'll tell a story. There was one show I did where I loved it, where I told a story about going on a date with Judge Wapner. And again, like not explaining anything, like, oh yeah, we went on a date, like what?
Yeah.
And we went to see a movie. And the movie we saw was Popeye. Director of Martin and we really enjoyed the movie. All right, then let's do the song, so that became like kind of the thing I always do is tell a weird story. So there you are.
So what you're saying now, Derek, is really interesting for me, because prior to this conversation, I was under the impression that Beanpole had only performed live twice, once on New Year's Eve and another time at Bottom of the Hill in San Francisco. But based on what you're saying, it looks like you guys did some touring.
We never toured. No, we never toured, but we did play more than one show, the Bottom of the Hill. We played other places, here and there, little clubs. Not a lot, but we played a number of shows.
Is there any surviving document of these performances? Any audio, any video?
Nothing. Sadly, no.
Wow.
And I really wish there was. The last show we played, I remember being pretty good. But no, it's a memory.
Wow.
Wow. I'm curious, with as many guys that were involved in the project, especially with the live performances, was that something that the stars had to align for a live performance to come to fruition, and everybody had to be into it?
Yes. That's the most difficult thing, was how do you get a bunch of people, and first of all, we had to rehearse. How do you get them all together to rehearse when we all live, kind of separate places in the Bay Area? It wasn't easy. Like when I was a kid, it was easy because we all lived in the same neighborhoods and go to your parents' house and practice in the bedroom. Well, this is different. We had to rent a place and kind of coordinate everything. When we weren't making money from this, we didn't have, the band, we had no intention of doing anything with the band other than performing. So it was kind of hard to pull it off. Okay. And the reason why the people did it was they just had fun.
A lot of the publicity around the Beanpole record was to that end, that this was something that we did just to have fun, but it morphed into this project and people loved it. And at least the participants loved it. And then, so I'm curious about, I guess I should ask about the timeline, because we have Judge Wapner in 83.
Right.
And then I'm curious about when these live shows are, because most, other than Wapner, from what I know, and you can correct me, much of this was recorded in the late 80s, early 90s?
Most of it was, I think, more mid to late 90s.
Mid to late 90s, okay.
Yeah, and that all started with Larry. So there was Judge Wapner was the first recording, but I really didn't do anything else with it until like the mid to late 90s. But that Judge Wapner song kind of dictated, this is how we're going to do it.
Wow. So this song that had been sitting around for 10 to 15 years was the catalyst for this. That just breeds so many more questions, because
it gets weirder than you can imagine. How did I end up at Larry's house in the first place?
Yeah,
I'm not friends with him. Yeah. So what happened? How did that happen? What happened was Adam called me one day and said, "Hey, want to go over to Larry's house?" Larry LaLonde of Primus? Are you kidding me? He's like, "Yeah. Hey, why don't you come over? Let's record." I'm like, "What?" "Well, he has an ADAT machine. It's got 8 tracks." ADAT? Oh my goodness! I couldn't believe it. So I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I was thinking, like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to record?
Yeah.
And I came up with His Name is Beanpole.
Wow.
That's where it came from. I just had this idea in my head, this story about a guy who goes on the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland and gets lost. in there. And I'm like, well, okay, if it's going to be about that, it's got to sound like that too. And so again, this is all going on in my head. I'm like, okay, I've got to write something that sounds like the Haunted Mansion theme. That's what His Name is Beanpole really is. Homage to Buddy Baker, actually, who wrote the music for the Haunted Mansion theme.
First of all, yeah. So Adam's once again dragging you out of your room,
yes,
where you're writing, studying, playing music, to go over to Larry's house. Okay, and this is the idea that you bring. His Name is Beanpole.
Yeah,
in the spirit of the Judge Wapner approach. I think I'm putting the points together here. It's starting to make this design. Okay.
Larry got it so instantly and so quickly, it was almost scary. It's almost like he felt Beanpole. He got the whole idea of Beanpole immediately. And he jumped in. And Adam, of course, was all over it. So that went quickly. We recorded very quickly. Another thing about Beanpole, I don't know what you know about how all these songs were recorded, but there was a process. Before we recorded our first Beanpole track, I had been in the Spent Poets. And we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in studio time in some of the finest studios around LA and even San Francisco, with, highly paid, producers and engineers and like the best of everything, doing thousands of takes over and over again, editing, redos, blah, 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 And one thing that I noticed was that we were only happy when we were listening to our demos, which we tossed off really quick like in our rehearsal studio, just bang it out and then, go to the studio and do it for real. So when it came time to do Beanpole, I just made a decision. I'm like, hey, anything I record that's going to be like this type of music, here's the rule. You're not allowed to do more than one take. The only way you're allowed to do a second take is if like something technically goes wrong, like your chord comes out of your guitar. Well, okay, sure, we'll do it again.
Right.
Basically, you are not allowed to get it right. And that led to something else. You're not allowed to learn what you're about to play. That was really important.
Okay.
That was a rule. So Larry was super into it because, he's one of the greatest guitarists I've ever heard. He's unbelievable. And I just pulled the rug out from under his feet, saying, nope, you're going to play. And whatever pops in your head, you're going to do it right away. But, he's so good, it really didn't slow him down. Yeah. So those recordings were done with those rules. And His Name is Beanpole is the first one. We just went for it. And no careful microphone placement. We didn't try to engineer the sounds like, let's get a good guitarist. I'm like, no. Stick the mic in, turn it on, hit record, go. That was how all these tracks.
Wow.
I'm very curious about that song, Derek. I understand that you're doing the lead vocals, but it's Adam who's doing the weird noises, right?
Yeah, we all actually, Larry said we all gathered around the mic. Adam's voice is the loudest because he's a singer.
You definitely hear his voice in there.
Really hear his voice. You notice at the beginning when he goes, he's making these funny sounds, right? He's going,
he says grandma.
And he says grandma.
Yeah.
That's why there's a song that we did much, much later called Grandma. Because I couldn't stop laughing every time I listened to it. And I think, Grandma? I'm like, Grandma, that's a great idea for a song. That's where Grandma came from. Adam.
What was the thought process behind the idea of starting the track with that intro?
No idea. Yeah. That's the point. That's the point. It's like we, stick a mic someplace, hit record. What's going to happen? I don't know. Let's find out. The only thing that anybody knew was that there was a structure to the song. We had a general idea of what was going to happen. As far as like the actual takes, anything could happen. And whatever happened, it's forever. That was the key. Wow. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to clean it up. So Adam going, Grandma. So that's immortalized.
Yeah. Wow. So on any of these given tracks, in particular, His Name is Beanpole, given it was the first one, there are probably all kinds of mistakes.
Nothing but mistakes.
Well, this leads to something that Larry told us not long ago when we talked to him, and he was hinting at, he called it, and I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially hinted at the precision with which you and Adam in particular, because Larry will never have, he's just the most humble guy in the world. He'll never, take any credit for anything. But he kind of hinted at the precision with which you and Adam made this imprecise music? Because I asked him a question around that. He said, yeah, it sounds like it's just this loose goofing off thing, but these guys knew what they were doing, and they wanted those goofball notes in the wrong places.
It's hard to say. I mean, all I know is that when I listen to it, I hear people trying something out for the first time and experimenting. I'll give an example. The bass track on his name is Beanpole. It's a walking bass line.
Yes.
It's an insanity. It goes on. It's all over the place. That's a good example. I played that, and that was one take, and I didn't know how to play it.
Oh my gosh! You've got to.
I'm serious. Yeah. No, because I didn't know. I mean, in fact, Larry was going to play the bass on that.
Oh wow!
And at some point, I ended up doing it. And I just kind of closed my eyes and went do. Like, and I'm like, I hope I'm getting it right. And some of it's right, some of it isn't. But there you are, But that's a good example. I mean, I like listening to it. To me, it makes me laugh. Because if I had thought it out, it wouldn't be so much fun. I'd be more careful about my choices.
Mm-hmm.
His line is actually the highlight for me.
Yeah. It takes a certain element of musical understanding to be able to play that in a way that is in key or makes sense. So it's important to know you guys are all quite accomplished musicians at this point when you're recording, I would say, because it shines through in that regard. It's interesting because you said you listen to it through a certain lens. So for years, I listened to Beanpole as through the lens of you guys being agents of chaos, essentially. Just all over the place, no holds barred, do whatever you're going to do, which is where it sounds like the approach was. But after what Larry told us, I listened to it more recently as though it was a calculated effort. I got a different vibe, but at the same time I went, these guys are insane, which is a great reaction to have. That's if you're listening to an album and you think these guys are insane, it's probably pretty darn good.
Well, man, I have so many stories to tell, man, about the recordings. But I want to give one about Larry, actually. One of the most impressive, amazing things I ever saw somebody do, as far as taking directions. And not given a chance to learn how to do something, was on Chicken Boy. Yeah. A very simple thing, but something I could never do. So Larry's there with his guitar. Okay, what are we going to do here? And I said, Larry, I want you to sound like a chicken. Just sound like a chicken. He's like, okay. And he did. That's one take. That's just him playing. It's perfect. It's like,
incredible.
How did you do that? Because how do you play like a chicken? Well, Larry can. There's tons of stuff like that. Like, us trying things out for the first time. I guess I'm jumping ahead here, but here's one: Children in the Garden, in your garden. You'll notice that song has very odd time signatures. Yeah. Right. It's skipping beats all over the place, and it's actually kind of complicated. And so I wrote it. When I was trying to record it, I thought, look, what's the worst way to possibly record something that complicated? How can I make sure it's going to be wrong? And I'm like, I know. I'm going to play the drum track by myself, one take, no backing, nothing. I'm going to get behind the drums. The song I don't even know how to play, because I wrote it in my head. So I don't know how to play, and play it. And with one microphone, what you hear on that is one take. It's like listening to it in my head, going, I hope this is right. And then we play it to it, which guaranteed it was going to be bad because, there's no steady rhythm. It's very, because I'm not really much of a drummer. And there you are.
In a way, I guess there is precision to the imprecision in that this is I'm going to record this without a backing, Captain Beefheart style, and it's going to be what it is, and we're going to play to that. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
That's it.
And then I'm thinking of something like the story of Monkey Boy, which is really structured song, and there's so much going on that you guys are all doing those parts in one take as well. And that if you say yes, I'm gonna have to walk away and cry.
No. That one to me, that's weird. That's a weird one.
Oh, it's
that's a weird one. Here's the story behind it. I showed up at Larry's house. It's another Larry recording. And this time I said, I don't really want to write a song. I want to come in with an idea and I want to just see what happens. So it was not like written out. It was more, let's have fun. But I came in, the idea was I want to do Pirates of the Caribbean. That's it. Okay. I want to do Pirates of the Caribbean, but I want it to be the Beanpole characters who are sort of involved, like all these people who seem to belong in the Beanpole world. on the ride. So the idea is that you're on the boat and you're going past the Blue Bayou, right? And you go past the skeletons go like, avast mateys. And that, okay. And there's a voice that you hear on the ride when you're in the caverns. It's like, it's kind of like high pitched, kind of a pirate voice. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. That kind of voice. And I said, Adam, be that person. and Adam just babbled. He babbled about Monkey Boy, and it's the greatest thing ever. Like, we were falling over laughing because he just did it. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. And then the rest of it was actually a lot of overdubbing. We just kept adding stuff. So yeah, that was. I played drums on that too, and the same thing. It's like I got behind the drums and bashed. This is how I guaranteed we get that one wrong. This is another way I pulled the rug out from under my own feet. We recorded the structure first. And you know how it switches into da 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 da, which is like a sample. And so I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get behind the drums. I'm going to sit there like this. I'm going to have, and they're going to play the track. So I'll try to guess when I should come in. And I couldn't hear it.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't hear it. And I think Larry was playing something at the same time, like guitar. And so we're like, ready? Da, 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 da. And we guessed, and that's why it's so off, is we didn't really know. And Larry is playing guitar with me while I played drums on that. And we were just like, I don't know. Let's see.
It's so fascinating to hear the making of some of these tracks or the record in general, because you're willfully sabotaging yourself. This isn't like some psychosis. You're just going, how can I make this more difficult for myself? It's interesting to me because there are threads of that, through the worlds of Primus as well, where, Larry's got stories about his original Fender guitar that was strung all crazy. The action was really high and people are going, I don't know how you can play this. It does seem like you found a kindred spirit there for, well, as he called it, the dumbest music imaginable, which I don't necessarily agree with because it's just
brilliant.
It's demented genius, in a way. So
one way that we kind of learned, like, I think I learned a little bit more about the music was when we had to play it live for the most recent show, because we hadn't looked at any of these songs for a long time. Uh-huh. And suddenly it's like, okay, we have to learn to play these. And suddenly we all realize how difficult they are. I mean, a lot of the songs, things like Pumpkin Pickin' Time, forget about it. That was just too impossible to learn. We struggled and struggled because no one could figure out the chords. It was too difficult. We knew what the chords were, but there's like, what are you going to do? Sit there with sheet music and, it was too complicated. Yeah. What Larry did, by the way, on that, which I thought was amazing, was, Larry didn't rehearse with us because he couldn't. He was too busy doing other things. And he just showed up the day before the gig.
Oh, wow.
And rehearsed with us, but he had done his homework. He'd listened to the songs, and played along with them. And we were able to do just about everything except for Pumpkin Pickin' Time. There's a melody at the end that goes bow now 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 now, and it keeps modulating. And nobody could do it. I couldn't do it. Matt Weininger couldn't do it. We all tried, and we're like, it's too difficult. I just physically can't figure this out. So, hey, Larry, you want to tackle it? So you know what he did? He transcribed it. He worked out.
Wow.
He built it. He wrote a transcription so that he could learn the positions for everything, and he practiced. And we never got to hear him practice with us because he did it the night before the gig.
Oh my gosh!
Wow,
that's incredible.
And we played the song, and I'm like, well, here goes. This is very Beanpole because I don't know what's going to happen. And he nailed it. The guy nailed it. It was like unbelievable. Like.
Derek, I have a couple of questions about the live shows. Why did you skip all the instrumentals at New Year's Eve? Like supper time, dinner time. Why did you omit those from the set?
Great question. I actually wanted to do them. I wanted to, but we had much discussion about it, and we realized the main thing we were really trying to do. We were not performing for Beanpole fans, and that was kind of how we knew. We can't really do them. These are not people who know the music. These are people who are there for Primus, or not for Primus, for Claypool, Lennon, Delirium. And they were there to have a good time. And our job was to get the audience like laughing and excited and pumped up. And we're like, if we do the instrumentals, doesn't matter who wrote them. It just, it's not as funny as having a voice. So that's why. But I actually did want to do them because I love them. But it wasn't to be. But that's why.
Yeah.
My other question is how the show from New Year's Eve and the show from Bottom of the Hill differ in terms of stage decorations or delivery of the songs, all of that.
Yeah. Very different because there's so many years between them. The Bottom of the Hill show had a lot more songs in it that are not on the record, and sadly were never captured on tape. We never recorded. There are songs out there that we used to play, and so it was quite a different set. So there's that. There's because we didn't have Matt Weininger playing with us, and of course we didn't have Larry. I was the only one playing guitar, and I couldn't really do a whole lot with guitar and sing at the same time. So our arrangements were completely different. It was more heavily focused on the keyboards. Okay. Luckily, we had two keyboards. So the New Year's Eve show that you saw was a luxury because we had two of the most brilliant, amazing guitarists ever playing. It was like I was in heaven. Like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. These people playing this ridiculous music. There they were, taking it really seriously. I'm like, what? Wow. Really? Okay.
And to give some context, the Bottom of the Hill show that we're referring to was 97, correct?
Yeah, 97.
And then the New Year's Eve was at 2018, I forget.
That's right.
17. Yep. Where was it? It was midnight 2017, yeah. Okay,
so we're talking around 20 years of separation.
Yeah.
So things are definitely going to be different. But I am curious with the 2018 show, when was the last time you had performed on stage prior to that?
Oh, goodness. Like with a band?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, probably about, I don't know, maybe about that period of time, roughly about 15 to 20 years.
Wow. So
I stopped playing completely.
But you have about 20 years of separation there. So getting on stage in 2018, is that an old pair of shoes or is it a flop sweat for you, I guess?
Old pair of shoes.
Awesome.
It's weird because I'm a pretty shy person. I'm kind of nervous, and I'm really not born to go in front of people and perform and tell stories. But put me on a stage, and I will. I feel like a different person. I feel alive and excited, and I feel comfortable on stage. I love it.
That's fantastic. And just to contrast that, maybe you can confirm this for me. Adam is exactly the same on stage as he is off.
Yes. Adam, what a character. I mean, I got to play with the guy like forever in the Spent Poets, and so I got to watch him every night. And I know I'm supposed to be doing my job, play bass or whatever, but watch Adam because he's such a great showman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What a talent that guy is. I used to talk with him about playing live with Beanpole, and like, I feel wrong being like the lead singer in this when you're saying you're one of the best singers like I've heard. He's a great rock singer. Yeah. He's technically amazing. And Adam said, the reason why you're singing is because your voice is the voice of Beanpole. He said, you have to sing. It's the sound. Like, I really wish you would sing. I actually did try to get him to take over so I could play guitar and focus on it. He said, nope. So,
I suppose he had a point, and I don't know if he just didn't want to sing that day, but he does have a point, because when I listen to Beanpole, it's like that's what given the lyrical content and even these illustrations on the record that came out. Yeah, that's the voice of Beanpole. He can't sound like a rock singer. He's got to sound like this little emaciated, dude.
Here's what I'd like to know. I have a question for the two of you. Well, you saw me at the Bottom of the Hill, but did you have a sense of what Beanpole looked like, or the singer of the band looked like when you listened to the recordings before you saw what?
No clue. No, I was completely in the dark. I had no idea who was behind all of that.
Did you ever think it was Les?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, with those MP3s floating around, I was so in tune to Primus at that point and Les Claypool and I knew his name was attached to it, and I was listening for him, and I never heard him. So, especially in the vocals. So I wondered who this mysterious person was, but I do remember being able to pick out Adam in some of the background, and especially the grandma. I remember going, "Oh, that's Bob Cock." You know,
Yes.
at the time, that's the only name I knew him by.
Yeah, Bob Cock. That's right. Yeah, that's. I was kind of wondering, what are people thinking when they listen to it? Like, do you have a visual sense of like what do they look like? Or...
Yeah, I do really believe that I envisioned the vocalist or how those vocals were delivered as a very small person.
That's
like
awesome.
like a skinny small, like a 4'11", probably like a 19, 20-year-old guy, really skinny, and just had, because of the name Beanpole for that part.
That's right.
But you know, unkempt hair, maybe didn't have it. All the rest of that's a mystery. But I had that, at least the stature of the person delivering that.
So fun. I love that. That's great. Surprise!
Wait, am I right? No.
Yeah, that describes me perfectly.
In my case, Derek, I recognized Adam's vocals in some of it, but I had no idea what was like the complete group of musicians behind it. And then one day, I got a comment from you on my supper time illustration on Instagram. So that's when I put all the pieces together. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. That's so awesome. God, you're so good.
Oh, thank you so much.
Just fantastic.
Yeah.
T-shirts. Yeah.
Very
Fantastic.
Beanpole there, yeah.
Very Beanpole.
You've been. It's very interesting to me. I do want to ask about the record, because it comes about in a strange way, and I'm sure for you it was a shock. And I remember reading some of the publicity on it, and for some reason I had it in my head that you were aware, but it turns out you got a call from Adam that said Sean Lennon, of all people, likes Beanpole.
Exactly. Yes.
Take us through the range of emotions. Most, you know.
Oh yeah, boy. Okay. Well, first of all, okay, I've been telling you about some of the inside, sort of almost like kind of secrets about how these things were recorded.
Yeah.
And what the process was. There's one more thing about Beanpole that really makes it specific. It's never meant to be shared.
Right. And so I'm just so curious how those tracks started getting around in the 90s.
They kind of slipped out. Okay. Definitely, like, I wasn't against it. It wasn't like, you're not allowed to share it. It was more like the point of the recordings was for the musicians. It was not to share with other people or please other people. It was just to have fun for ourselves, and also to maybe grow as musicians, because we weren't allowed to use certain skills we had learned. That's the pulling the rug out from under our own feet kind of thing. But the song, we never wanted to, we never intended to release this stuff. Even playing live was, I had to be somewhat dragged into it because, like, well, this stuff's not really intended to be heard by anybody, but okay, why not? And we didn't play a ton of shows, so it was okay. But really, I never intended this stuff to get out, and so that there were two attempts to release the album. The first one was just Les on his own record label. Was that
the one when he took it to Mammoth, or was that just on his? Okay, that's the story that came with the record. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a true story. So that was so like, I was surprised back then when Adam again calling me, "Hey, Derek, guess what? Les wants to release the Beanpole tracks." No, Beanpole tracks? What, you mean what? Like, what are you talking about? You mean like the few things we recorded with him and Larry? Yeah, he wants to release that and anything else you got.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, sure. Because Adam had been sharing with him stuff like Judge Wapner and, Cousins and other things I've been recording. And so I'm like, well, okay, I guess so. I mean, why not? And so let's arrange to have us all show up at a studio somewhere, I don't know, like Berkeley, I think maybe, for a mastering session. We show up and have a bag, dump it on the desk of cassettes and DAT tapes and just crap, like, okay, good luck trying to make this sound good. But the guy, he did it. He's like, all right, let's do it. So we went through these old broken cassette tapes of mono, like horrible. And he did master a lot of this stuff. Much of it I had recorded over the years on a 4-track cassette recorder. just on my own. So I just, I put in the newer Beanpole stuff, the old Judge Wapner, and a bunch of stuff I'd done in between on my own. But it wasn't like officially Beanpole, but it kind of used some of the same processes. It was just me and a 4-track.
Okay.
And so that was once the guy had mastered it, we had a CD. That CD of these master tracks formed the basis of the album that Sean Lennon released on his label. That was like the core of it.
Ah, all right.
So that's how that got done. Now, of course, the sad end of this was that Les was dropped by the label because they were so offended when they heard the music. When he played it for them, they were horrified.
Yeah.
They're all, "What's wrong with you? Like, are you insane?"
Yeah.
And Les like, "Hey," So, and I mean, that's the story I heard. And I believe that's what happened. So you'd think that he would give up on it, but he didn't.
Right.
And many years later, when he was touring with Sean Lennon, they were on the bus. I mean, the story I heard was they were on the bus, and Les said, "Hey, want to hear Beanpole?" And Sean's like, "I don't know, what is this?" So he played it for him, and Sean instantly got it. He knew what was going on. He said, "All right, let's release it." And then so that leads to me getting a phone call from Adam saying, "Guess what? Sean Lennon wants to release Beanpole."
Wow.
Wow. Well, we already ruined one person's career. Can we do it twice?
Oh, man.
Really? But again, my emotions. You asked me how did I feel about it, and I still stick to how I felt about all this. I never wanted this out there, any of it. It wasn't that I was against it. It's just it wasn't the intention.
Uh-huh.
I was of course thrilled. I'm like, wow, Sean Lennon. Oh my gosh. But, also I'm like, well, sure, but I'm not going to have much to do with it. It's just, I'm going to let them take care of it.
Okay.
But I ended up actually being quite involved because I actually had to remix a couple of things. I got involved with the new mastering engineer, testing things, listening. Even when they came out with the vinyl version, that took a long time because I kept listening to test pressings and rejecting them, going something's wrong. There's something technically wrong with these. And the mastering engineer agreed. So we had to keep going through cycles of this until they got it right. Well, that's it. You got it right.
Wow.
So, once I got into that mode, I started feeling some pride. I'm like, it's I like this stuff. It's neat.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Maybe somebody out there will enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay.
Derek, I have a few questions about the album.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to say that you sharing this information makes the album feel a whole lot more special because I mean, it's a privilege. It's like we're listening to something that was meant to be, kind of a secret, and now it's available for us to listen to. It just makes it all the more precious.
Yeah.
The first question that I have is about the curation of the tracks that would go into the album, because as you know, there are a lot of Beanpole songs that are not in there. So how did you pick what was going to be on the record? And did you ever consider maybe doing a second album with the rest of the songs that are missing?
Okay. That's the big question. Great one. I went over to Adam's house while we were starting to figure out what tracks should go on. And I wrote down every song. We just sat down and went through everything that was available to us, the recordings. And we worked out a track listing. And it actually took a while. I think we went back and forth with spreadsheets and stuff, trying to go well, what if we had this song and not this? And there was actually a moment of one moment that was kind of strange where I didn't want Judge Wapner on there. Now I know that sounds crazy. It's like, what? But at the time, I'm like, it just doesn't sound to me like it just doesn't seem to fit. I'm like, I'm okay with dropping it. It's none of this is supposed to be heard anyway. So I wanted to drop it and replace it with another thing I'd recorded at UC Davis with Darren Wilson in '84. Another song which I was very proud of, which I thought was a better song anyway. But Adam was like, no, you have to put Judge Wapner. And they're like, well, I kind of don't want to. So Adam talked with Les about it. And Les, said to Adam, who came back to me, said are you out of your mind? You have to have Judge Wapner on it. I'm like, all right. I'm not going to fight it. Go ahead. Yeah. And now, of course, I'm glad it's on there because it is kind of a classic Beanpole track.
It's the spark. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the spark. And it took us a while. We actually struggled with the track listing, deciding what goes in and out. But eventually what you see here, I think everybody was satisfied. Or like, I think that seems right. It feels like a good, relatively good ordering. As far as the second part of your question, enough songs left over for another album? Yes. There's even more than that. I remember I'd mentioned that we were performing some songs that never got recorded.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I want to record them.
Wow.
I'd like to make a second album. There's enough material to make a really good second album, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be cool. In fact, one of the things I'll play for you is the unheard track.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing.
But that's where this unheard track is kind of the thing that would end up on the second album if I ever made it.
I'm curious, Derek, about the artistic direction. Did you give Adam a free hand, or did you tell him that you wanted some of the characters of the songs to be illustrated?
For the artwork?
Yes.
Yeah. We had long talks about about direction. He has a style, and so that's and he's a wonderful illustrator. And so I wanted it to look like Adam. Like I wanted his style. He's been drawing stuff since I first met him. He'd come over to my house and he would like grab one of my drawing pads and scribble these little cartoon characters, and I would just stare at them after he was gone. With that's awesome. So I wanted that. I wanted that feeling. Actually, here's one of the things we talked about, and this was something we both agreed on. We wanted the artwork to be the kind of thing where you could stare at it and find lots of little things every time you look at it. We wanted to have a lot of sort of information densely packed into it. And why? Because Adam and I grew up with vinyl records. And we used to sit there listening to our records and looking at the album covers, and like that was a joy. And so Adam was, dedicated to that idea. It's like, I'm going to make artwork that you can stare at and study and have fun with and be surprised by. And he did. So, that was the basic direction. The other thing I told him that I really wanted, I'd always wanted, was something that's kind of similar to Led Zeppelin 2, the cover of Led Zeppelin 2. As you recall, it's the Zeppelin in the background and a bunch of people in front.
Right.
But here's the weird thing about that picture. Think about it. Led Zeppelin band members who are not that famous because it's only their second album are mixed into the crowd. But there's just as many people who are not Led Zeppelin in that crowd. And I'm like, I love that. I love that album cover because you have to find them. And it's just so cool. It's a crowd of people. You don't know who they are, like how are they related to anything? So I said, Adam, I want that for the Beanpole cover. I want lots of people, just a group of people. And I want people to look at the album cover and try to figure out who they are. And then Adam's the one who figured out. He's like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'm going to make these characters in the songs.
Yeah.
That was his idea.
I think you guys succeeded tremendously on that goal, because when I look at the album cover, I mean, I can see the guy from Pumpkin Picking Time, I can see Chicken Boy and Grandma, but there are several characters there which you just look at them and you wonder which song they relate to.
Exactly.
So mysterious.
Me too. Yeah, I actually I'll stare at the album every once in a while, look at it just because I like it. It's puzzling and fun.
This might be kind of a long shot, Derek, but do you know the story behind the yearbook photo that you guys used for Embryo?
Yearbook photo?
Yeah, in the inner gatefold, there are more illustrations of the tracks,
yeah.
and for Embryo, there's like this yearbook photo where everybody looks so weird, and Embryo is hiding there in one of the pictures.
I see. Right? Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know how Adam did that. No idea. But he completely understood the idea of Embryo, what it was, and he captured it beautifully in his drawing.
Yeah, the artwork is really fascinating. I think it's a reflection of the music itself.
Yeah.
Your description is just matching my thoughts, just looking at the cover image again. And Frankie, same thing. I was trying to pick out who was who because I just felt that was implied, especially when I saw Chicken Boy right in the front. I went, well, Sponge Boy better be on here somewhere.
Right.
And whoever else. And Grandma and everybody. So when... It's just so interesting to me that you get this call and as you described, it's this was never really meant to be put out there, because I remember I used to make tapes when I was a kid. There wasn't music or anything. It was just me being, and I'm using air quotes, me being funny, and it was funny to me. And every once in a while I would play for my little sister and just be like, isn't that hilarious? And she'd say no. And I'd say, okay. But it was, so in the same vein, although the talent level and the material was way down in the basement compared to Beanpole, I had these tapes and I really liked them. They were for me. As an adult now, if those got out, I think I got rid of them, but if those got out now, my life would be over, So at least it wasn't that severe for you, but you could come back and embrace this. Did it take everybody saying yes and everybody to be on board? Yourself, Adam, Larry, Darren, and I'm missing all the other names of everybody involved.
Jeff Marks, who played drums on a lot of the songs, a phenomenal drummer, and Thomas Muir, who played keyboards on a bunch of things. I think they're the other. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And I can't recall, are all those names credited on the record or? I can't. I must have not. I must have missed it because for some reason I think it just.
I think all of them are there.
No,
okay.
I think they're listed somewhere in there.
Yeah, they're all there.
Yeah, they're all there
for sure.
I made sure. I asked for that because I wanted their names.
Yeah, because the Walt Beanpole thing. I think so many people just go, "Oh, it's this weird dude making all this music by himself." But making sure these guys all get credit for their absolute. Just dynamite contributions to this stuff. That's really important. What a wild ride, So you're involved for much of it, choosing the tracks. And I think Frankie, you were probably going to mention this.
Oh yeah,
the ones that weren't selected for the album, right?
Yeah. Can we go into specifics?
Sure.
All right. So Derek, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that you write code, and some of that goes into Beanpole. Particularly .NET. Is that correct?
Okay, I'm a software developer, but you were mentioning Donut?
Yeah, Donut. I mean, is that inspired by your profession, or is it 100%. Just a random tale? Oh, okay.
No, 100%. It's entirely what that is. That is a work song. That's back when I was working at that company. I did a song called Donut, and it was actually most of it was a guitar exercise.
It's a great track.
So you've heard? Wow.
Yeah.
No one's heard that. How did you find that?
Oh, that's something that I want to ask you about because the record has the tracks that you picked, but there is also a Beanpole Soundcloud where I have heard songs that are not on the record.
Oh, yes, that's how. Right. It's Card Walker. That's the name of the account. Yes, that's where I'm amazed you found that because it's so obscure. Like no one knows about that. Yeah, that's right. There's also Bring Back Card Walker on there.
Yeah, Where is Fred, which is an amazing song.
That's the one I wanted on there instead of Judge Wapner.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, that's the song. And Where is Fred, by the way, is okay. That's from a psych class I took when I was in college. The story was there was a study being done on when do children learn to lie. And so they did this experiment, and it's exactly it's exaggerated in the song, but the general idea is that it's a true story. A little child is led into a room, and the scientists are watching from behind the glass, with their clipboards.
Right.
And there was a hamster cage set up there, and there's a hamster there named Fred. That was his name. And the researcher says, "All right, I want you to keep an eye on Fred. Right. Don't take your eyes off of him. I'm going to leave the room, but don't look away." So the researcher leaves the room. Now, in the corner is a pile of toys.
Yep.
So the child's watching Fred, staring at him, and then they look like toys, and they look, and as soon as the kid turns their head, the scientists press a button, and a trapdoor opens, and Fred disappears. The cage closes back on. So, and just then the researcher comes back in the room and says, "Where's Fred?"
Yep.
I wanted to know. The kid going to say, "I turned my head, I didn't see," or, a spaceship came down and aliens picked him up and flew away, or Fred ran away, or are they going to lie? And that's where that song came from. It's just I literally wrote that song like seconds after that class.
Wow.
And that's that's Darren Wilson again, recording with him at the Music Lab at UC Davis.
Wow.
But this time I got to play guitar.
I'm really curious what you could do with the Stanford prison experiment. musical.
Yes, exactly.
Might be a little darker, but you know.
Yeah, it would be a little darker. Exactly.
Yeah, so it looks like there are 11 tracks that didn't make it to the record on this SoundCloud.
There are some of them are on the record. Grandma Ride is just basically Grandma, and Pumpkin Picking Time is also in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, some of these did make it. Yeah, so some did not, and I think that's great that they made it to that SoundCloud. Were you involved in that, Derek?
The SoundCloud, yeah, I think that was a dumping ground.
Okay.
I knew there were things there. It was something I never, again, meant for anyone to see or hear. It was just a dumping ground for me. It's weird that the donut song, that's a word, that's for my company where I work. Like, no one's supposed to hear that. Really. I mean, there's just a bunch of stuff in there. There's one thing in there that's good that I really like, and that's the Mr. Lincoln song.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I like that one. I was pleased when that's just me. I just recorded that myself. And that's very Beanpole, and that belongs on the next Beanpole album, I think.
Well, and I'm curious. I want to follow up by asking: you have a lot of these Disney-related tunes or tunes that have this basis in something Disney. And before we started recording, you said you were a big Disney guy. What's the connection to Disney? Like, I went to Disney World when I was 10, and I thought it was great, but you must have a much more intimate connection.
Yeah. It's I'm sort of obsessed. Really, really obsessed with Disneyland for a long time.
And we're talking Disneyland, the theme park, and
only Disney park. Yeah, right. not so much about the world of everything that Disney puts out.
Right.
But Disney theme park, and there were a number of things that I focused on that were like part of my obsession. One of them was trying to figure out what the most efficient way was to tour the park. And so the starting point was the unofficial guide. And there was a series of books which purported to have worked out the most efficient way to get the most out of the park. I used that as a starting point, and I used to go to Disneyland 2-3 times a year with my friend John Hamilton, who was a coworker, and we would go there and we'd work on it. We're like, okay, what's the what are we going to do? Okay, let's gather fast passes in the morning in a certain order, store them in our wallets, and then go back later and spend them, and so on. So I was attracted to this whole idea of like, how can I get the most out of Disney? And the other thing I was really affected by was a book I read and kept rereading about sort of like the business dealings that the Walt Disney Company went through.
Okay.
The thing I liked about the book was I learned about Card Walker. So Cardin Walker was briefly the CEO of the Walt Disney Corporation after Walt passed away.
Okay.
He kind of drove the company into the ground almost to the point where they were probably getting close to going under. Then they brought on Michael Eisner and Frank Wells. And
those guys, I remember their names for resurrecting the brand, yeah.
And so I was obsessed with the idea of Card Walker. There's something about that guy. I'm like, because he failed, and I loved him for not getting it right. Like example, he had an opportunity to release Star Wars and E.T. and he turned it down. He passed. Wow. He's like, nope, I want to do something wicked. This way comes, and he just made all the wrong decisions. And so on that SoundCloud account, there's a song "Bring Back Card Walker."
Yeah,
and that's very Beanpole. That's like so Beanpole. And that's me just singing the point of view, and the idea behind it is you're all wrong. Card Walker was the best, and I prove it in the lyrics why he is the best.
Once again, that's the absurd reality.
Yes,
and everybody else should understand it. Okay,
you have to accept it as the premise. It's like yes.
Accept it, yeah. So it's it not just a story of failure or a guy who failed, but somebody who took something seemingly bulletproof and almost completely destroyed it.
Yes, yeah.
Wow,
I love it, but not deliberately. I mean, he did his best, but he wasn't equipped for the times. That's the key. Times had changed since Walt passed away, and he just wasn't with it. I mean, it was Star Wars had come out, and he didn't even do anything about it.
Yeah.
Until they made The Black Hole. That was their feeble attempt to try to capitalize on that. It was like total F-.
Yeah.
But so my obsession with Disney, it really kind of started with learning about Card Walker, but it was mostly about learning how to tour the park efficiently. And I just love that.
Yeah.
Couple of details. Well, here's one that to me is kind of interesting. Next time you listen to it, think about it. His name is Beanpole, right? The song is about the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
If you listen really carefully, you'll hear these little hissing sounds.
Yeah.
And those are supposed to be pneumatics going off, like little pneumatic pistons.
Oh,
right.
And that's one of the lines in there, like pneumatic rams and pistons hiss is one of the lines. And so what I did was I did this like at home at some point. I think it took us 2 recording sessions at Larry's house to finish it. But I remember at home buying a whole bunch of bottles of soda and recording with the microphone, shaking them, going. And I gathered them on a cassette tape, took them over to Larry's house, and we dropped it into the recording.
Oh, okay.
And that's why you hear those. And you'll hear it again, the similar types of sounds on Grandma. Grandma is a ride.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's Jeff Marks, the drummer. He's the one who's announcing, like, get ready for the wildest ride. That's Jeff. So awesome. So we also wanted kind of sounds. And we're like, you know what? Let's just do it with our mouths. So and that's how we did it that time. It's a lot easier.
Okay. There are some other Disney-related ones that don't appear on the SoundCloud or the record, and that would be the old beanpoleland.com that you told us earlier Adam maintained for a bunch of years.
That was Adam, yeah.
And so did you send him these tunes to upload, or how'd that, because there's...
I don't know. I think it's more like I would just like maybe on occasion share a cassette with him.
Okay.
Of stuff I've been working on, and then he did the rest.
He would sneak it onto the internet without your knowledge, and no, I'm kidding.
I was surprised when I found out about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. One day he kind of surprised me and said, by the way, did you know that I've been doing this for a while? Like, no.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was amazed. I'm like, well, yeah, fine. That's cool. But like, what?
Yeah. Well, using the magic of the Internet Archive, of course, I can bring up some old cached versions of that website. Now, the audio doesn't survive. I tried to download the
unfortunately.
files. Those don't survive, but there are some that maybe you can shed some light on that are nowhere else on the internet now.
Beanpole and Led Zeppelin, Beanpole and the Go-Go's, and Hillbilly Grizzly Hoedown.
Yeah.
We have no clue about those.
What, did you say
what are they about?
Hillbilly? What?
Hillbilly Grizzly Hoedown, yeah.
And you don't have the audio for that?
No, we don't have that one, or Beanpole and Led Zeppelin and Beanpole and the Go-Go's. I mean, those are complete mysteries to us.
Okay, I can explain those, exactly what those are. Oh man, that was so cool. Those were not Beanpole songs specifically. It was an experiment I did before I even had my first cassette 4-track. So we're talking like, I don't know, really early 90s. I had nothing, but I did have 2 cassette machines, and when I would bounce back and forth. So I got into doing this thing to make my friends laugh. It was just to get laughs, where I would record a snippet from a famous song like the Go-Go's, we got the beat, do. And then I would play over it. I would blend in with it, but I did it really carefully. I mean, I put a lot of work into these. The idea was I wanted to sound like I am in the band. Like you don't hear someone adding something. It had to be perfect. It had to sound like one of the members of the band is playing the wrong chord.
Yeah, in there in a second, yeah.
So we got the beat. I got that guitar tone. Like I just managed to kind of get it. It's a live version from Erg, A Musical War. That's I don't know if you ever saw the movie or got the soundtrack. Erg, A Musical, it's fantastic. But that's where that recording came from. And so I just recorded a little snippet of it. And I played along with it. And whenever they play a major chord, I play a minor chord. That was it. And when they played the solo, I played off a flat fifth from there. So it's all wrong sounding.
Yeah.
The Beanpole and Led Zeppelin was Black Dog, and I'm playing a half step off, and exactly a half step off. So it's like what, but I matched the tone, so it's a.
Oh, that's great.
And I don't know how that got digitized or uploaded. I guess Adam did it. I don't know. Okay. The Hillbilly one, that's the one that I feel kind of bad about because I remember that was a good recording and I can't find it.
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh man, it was that was one I did with Jeff Marks. He played drums on that and sang with me and played clarinet. And that was a cool one. That was an actual Beanpole song.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
gone. I can't find it anywhere.
Do you think Adam has a copy?
I don't. I doubt it. I mean, I could ask him, and maybe.
Let's get him on the phone right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it. It was. I remember what the song was. It was called "Pre-Recorded Band," and it was about Country Bear Jamboree.
Yep.
And it was. I remember the music. I mean, I can hear it in my head. It was we were just a pre-recorded band, and it was done really like, and it sounded like you're at the Country Bear Jamboree. But what they're singing about is Milli Vanilli.
Okay.
That's perfect.
And that was it. So they're saying like, we became famous and huge until we got caught, and they found out we were just a pre-recorded band. But of course, it's the Country Bear Jamboree doing it, and that was the joke.
Okay.
So,
the lyrics are actually preserved on this archive too. Yeah, it says.
No way! Are you serious?
Yeah. That year we won a Grammy. There was no place to hide. Our fame and fortune up and died. Yeah, that's great.
Can you send that? Or I guess I could find it. I guess look for it on the Wayback.
Yeah, the Wayback Machine. Beanpoleland.com. Yeah.
Oh my God! I got to find those lyrics. That's hilarious.
I'm looking at a version from 2002, so those lyrics are there. Yeah.
Okay, I got to record that. That's I got to do a new version of it. If I get the lyrics,
please do.
Wow, that's great.
There you go. Frankie would gladly lad vocals.
Derek, can you please elaborate on Farmer Loved an Onion? Because it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. And particularly, after the crescendo in the story, when you start doing the coda, there are these really high-pitched vocals that make the song such a racket. It's such a fun song to listen to. Can you give us some backstory on this song?
That was recorded with Jeff Marks and Thomas Muir, my high school friends, while there was a period of time where I did a bunch of recordings with them, and it was all very Beanpole stuff. All the same rules. You really weren't allowed to learn how to play anything. The only thing we did that was slightly different was we were allowed to spend a little more time aiming the mics correctly, but that was about it. That song was pretty complex and long and kind of epic, and very, very arranged. So that one, the way I write music, I do have a process, and it's very strange, but this is how I've always written music, and I still do. I write everything in my head. I don't pick up any instruments, nothing. I write in my head, and I'll be in the shower, or I'll be driving or shopping, walking around museums. I'm writing in my head. Yeah. And so I hear the finished recording. And so what I do is I work on it in my head. So I arrange it, and all the parts, drums, bass, guitar, vocals, everything it's there. So when it's time to record, I have to learn how to play it, and I have to teach other people who are on the parts that are in my head. And of course, then the other musicians can then bring their own ideas into it, and it blossoms. But that's how this stuff gets done. Farmer Loved an Onion pretty much came out exactly as I heard it in my head.
Fascinating. That is fascinating.
Yeah, everything, all those parts. Yeah, that's how that one was done. I like that song. I like the lyrics on that one. It's funny.
So you don't even write a note. You don't write anything down. It's all upstairs. And
only the lyrics.
Okay. Wow.
I write the lyrics down, but the music, the arrangements, it's and it can't be when I'm idle. I have to be doing something. I'm serious. I have to be walking or showering or driving or something. I can't just sit down and go.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that? Are you hearing the melody, or are you saying to yourself E chord, G chord, B minor? What's?
Nope. Yeah. Great question. No. It's the same as imagine in your mind right now a song like a Primus song.
Sure.
Just listen to it in your head. Can you hear it? Let's say, I don't know, Tommy the Cat.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I can hear it right now.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like I'm listening to a recording that was already made.
Wow.
But what I do is it's like a tape. And so what I do is I rewind and I move the tape head back and forth. So if I don't like something, I move the tape head. I almost can see it. and then I play it and I change it so that when I'm listening to it, my head modifies, and I keep doing that. It's iterative until eventually I hear like, well, that's correct, and then I have to learn to play it.
Wow.
And because these songs are hard to play, they often come out sounding kind of really rough, and it's a struggle to play some of these songs. They're hard to play.
Yeah.
But it's what can I do?
Right. It's what your mind created. You got to chase it.
It's not based on skill. Like normally you learn to play a song, to write a song, you have a guitar or a piano or something, right? And I've written songs that way, of course. But I stopped doing that like around 86.
Wow.
Okay.
That's incredible. I can relate in the sense that I have dreamed music before, but I don't have it's like my mind's writing it and I'm listening to it in my head, like when I'm dreaming it, and I go, this is great music, but I just don't have the wherewithal to transfer it to piano, guitar, whatever. Like it's just because I forget it when I wake up. And I'm sure if you played it back in my brain, everybody else would go, wow, that's terrible. But it, in the moment. So that's such a strange thing. And it's just fascinating. And that takes, it takes so much brain power to do that, but it takes so much organization too. And you're talking about, abstract organization. Yeah. Which you must have had to practice that, right?
No.
Really? That just came to you?
Yeah. I just started doing it. I don't know exactly when it started, but I made a decision when I got out of school that the reason why I couldn't write songs, why I'm such a bad songwriter, is because I'm a fairly dedicated guitar player. Okay. I just had this revelation. Suddenly I got it. I'm like, well, here's what happens when I pick up guitar. I'll play a bunch of chords, and then I'll try to come up with a melody, and it's so uninspired. Gotcha. Because I know, I have patterns. And so I sort of decided, no, I'm going to flip that on its head. From now on, but I think even as a kid, I always heard music in my head. Mm-hmm. I just decided to this is how I'm going to write music from now on.
Wow. You ever thought about getting an MRI just for fun?
Right, exactly. For fun, there's a little multi-track recorder. The thing that makes this really tricky too, for me, is I do it on multiple songs at the same time. That's harder. Yeah. So the way I do that, and again, it's like a visual thing. I can see it. It's like I'll pull a song out and I'll work on it for a while. And then it gets stored, and then I get bored and I'll work on something else, or I get frustrated. I'm like, I can't get the bridge. So I'll pick another. So I have kind of a bunch of songs which are in short-term memory that I can pull out, work on, and store, so that way, when it's time to record, I may have 2 or 3 songs ready to go.
I've never heard of anybody who plans like that. That's phenomenal. That's very fascinating to me.
Derek, wow. I have a question about another song, but I want to give you some background on it. So Josh has been into Beanpole longer than I am, because for some reason or another, I was not actually aware of Beanpole until the album came out officially. Oh, cool. So when I saw the announcement that that this music was going to be released, I was intrigued. I did some research, and I read all the backstory that was available. And when Farmer Loves an Onion came out, it was pretty surprising. I thought it was a very interesting piece of music, but it was actually the second single that sealed the deal for me, because when I heard Cousins, I thought, wow, this is so unique. It's so original. The lyrics, the arrangement, everything about it is so amazing. And I want to tell you that whenever I listen to that song, what immediately comes to my mind is an episode from The X-Files, which was so controversial that it was actually banned from syndication. It's the episode Home, where, they have to go to a farm and investigate this incestuous family that keeps burying their babies in the backyard. Yeah. And Cousins was actually the first Beanpole song that I attempted to illustrate. Just so compelling, lyrically, visually, everything. So,
that's fun. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's the Peacocks. Are you kidding me? Yeah. That's the Peacock family, Frankie. You nailed it.
Yeah.
I love how happy they are.
So, what can you tell us about this wonderful track called Cousins?
Oh yeah, I like that one too. I like that song. That's another one I did with Jeff Marks on drums and Thomas Muir on piano. And I played guitar, and I don't know he played accordion on that. That's right. And that's a real accordion. It's not a sampler. It's like I'm actually playing.
Real deal.
Yeah, real deal. Yeah, that one. I'm trying to. Okay. I know how the lyrics came about. I had read a book called Addie Pray, and that's the lesser known title for a book which was retitled Paper Moon, which became a movie with Tatum O'Neal. Okay, so you might see where this is going. The book, it's about Depression era, con artists, and in the Deep South, and they're just dealing with hillbillies like all the time. And everyone's all, yep, I go down store, it's that whole thing. And I liked that kind of hillbilly thing already because, of course, I like Primus. And, Les had a lot of fun with that kind of thing. Like, dog will hunt,
Sure, yeah.
And of course, I'm a huge Residents fan. My favorite thing in the world. I haven't mentioned that, have I? I'm like the biggest.
No, we didn't talk about that, but it certainly comes through.
Come on, man. The Residents, like, the people is the Residents. Like, that's where it comes from. But absolutely. But I read that book, and Cousins was me responding to that book. I'm like, I got to do a song about inbreeding because it's just funny. And then I thought about Deliverance. I'm all, that's funny too. And I just all the wrong ideas people have about hillbillies, like just the worst cultural stuff about it. I'm like, I'm going to do a song, which is the worst. But what's different about this song is it's not about shame. It's about pride.
Right.
So the lyrics, it's very, prideful. And it's like, this is great. And again, it's that assumption about like in the world of this singer, like this is wonderful that our family tree is, perfectly straight, that kind of thing. It's he's proud of it. Like, yeah. So that's where that came from. Yeah. So, and of course the music,
I'm also curious, Derek, about taking into account, the songs that we have on the album, but also all the unreleased tracks, all of them are very cohesive. But there is one that stands out for me, which is Merchant Tech, because it's conventional for Beanpole standards, and it actually sounds like something that could be on a mainstream album from any artist. The arrangement, is very lush. It's kind of a conventional track for Beanpole.
It is, and it was not a Beanpole track. The stuff that's on that SoundCloud account, it's not. It really seriously is a dumping ground.
Okay.
It was never meant again to be shared or for anyone. I didn't care. I just stuck it. I wanted a place to throw tracks that had been recorded or whatever, so I could access them later or whatever. But it wasn't for sharing. And it's not Beanpole. It's like all kinds of stuff. That song is probably more like what I closer to what I kind of do now.
Okay.
Well, no, that's not quite accurate. Okay, let me explain. I do this thing called Song a Day. And I've been doing it for, a long time, like, I don't know, like maybe 12 years. And I probably have approaching 300 songs on there, 300 songs. Yeah. Because I've been recording, I don't know, maybe 20 or so songs in the month of February for this website for like 12 years. And there's really not much Beanpole in any of it.
Okay.
It's not Beanpole-y. It's not exactly conventional either. It's weird because I'm a weird guy, but it's not. It's not Beanpole. But I follow the rules. That some of the rules still are there. Like for example, I don't practice. I don't learn the parts. I get a chance to do one, maybe two takes, and that's it. I'm not trying to pull the rug out from under my legs. I'm just used to doing it. So, and also here's the thing. I learned this lesson very quickly. Okay. Let's say you're given the task, write and record a song in one day, every day for a month. How precious are you going to get about the takes?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to want to get it done. Yeah. Because I want to eat.
Yes. And also, I work. I work during the day, and then at night, I'm like, I have a couple hours. And meanwhile, my family's like, could you turn it down? Like you're playing drums and like we're trying to, so like, I try to bang it out as fast as I can. And that's a very Beanpole thing. I learned how to do that through Beanpole.
All right. So that means, Derek, that if you ever put together material for a second album, from these SoundCloud archives, I mean, stuff like Beanpole presents Mr. Lincoln and Mr. Duck. I guess those are tracks that could go on it, but stuff like Merchant Tech or Donut, maybe those would not be included.
They would not be included. No.
Okay.
They're not being.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad, Derek, that you brought up Song a Day, because I want to give a shout out to somebody who also admires you a lot as much as I do. Her name is Esme, and she actually did a song with you. It's Cultural Exchange, and she also did a music video for Pumpkin Picking Time.
Yeah.
She's a huge fan, so I just wanted to say hello to her on the air.
Brilliant. She's amazing. Okay, first of all, that video blew my mind when I saw it, because I had no idea, and I somehow got a message over to her about like how incredible it was. But the cultural exchange thing. So do you know the story behind that? Like how that was done? Because it's a little surprising.
Oh, please share.
Yeah, we didn't do it together. It's funnier than that. On Song a Day, we pick one day. It's like the 22nd or something. There's a particular date where you have to do a cover of somebody else's song, or do a song inspired by somebody else. So she did a song where the music is very similar to like the thing that I ended up doing, but it's because she wrote it, but she's singing all these sort of English phrases. And I heard it and it just blew me away. I'm like, oh, and I kept listening to it over. I couldn't get enough of it. It's her voice. It's what she was singing, the way she did it. I just loved it. So I'm like, well, that's what I'm going to do. So what I did was I wrote new lyrics, and it was all about the word she uses in there, which is cockwobble. And it's just like one of the many phrases she's like, blah, 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 cock wobble, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cock wobble, what? So, of course, I had to look it up. Cock wobble basically means, an idiot. Uh-huh. And that was it. I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. So the song I did was I just keep saying cock wobble over and over and over again, over the same beat, the same kind of music, and playing bass and drums over it. And I liked how that one came out. So that's the story behind that.
Wow. So Derek, it was very surprising for me to find out that Sponge Boy was inspired by Dune.
You're talking about the story that Sponge Boy inspired SpongeBob, or
no? I mean that the song Sponge Boy on the All My King record was inspired by a phrase in the Dune film,
the David Lynch Dune.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's Baron Harkonnen, right? The scene is he's being villainous. He's and his nephew, Rabin, I think his name is, and he's this big hulking guy, right? And there's a scene where he takes a bite of chicken or something. He's chewing it. He's eating, and the Baron comes up to him and says, "I want you to squeeze the people. I want you to squeeze." And he grabs his cheeks and squeezes his cheeks, and chicken comes out. Yeah. It's disgusting. And so I remember watching it and going like, ugh. That phrase kept going through my head. I want you to squeeze. I want you to squeeze. And that became Sponge Boy. I'm like, okay, it's got to be about a sponge. Now, here's the weird thing. I've heard the story. I don't know if it's true. I heard it, I think, through Adam, who I think Les told him. There is a possibility that SpongeBob, by Stephen Hillenbrand, I think his name, Hillenbrand, the creator, may have got the idea from Sponge Boy through Les, who he met.
Wow.
No, I don't know. I mean, that's when I heard that, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
But Sponge Boy, SpongeBob. And they had contact with each other. And, of course, Les knew about Beanpole. Is it possible? Maybe.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I hope it's true.
Right. Even if it's apocryphal, it's a great story that you can brag on.
Exactly. I'm like, I did some good in the world.
Yeah. I was the inspiration for SpongeBob.
Right.
You want to listen to Sponge Boy? And then that's,
right.
You'll be a hit at all the parties, man. They'll be, the hell is this?
It's great that you knew that story about Dune, man. That's so obscure.
Yes. Derek, I'm also curious about the instrumentals. I'm wondering if prior to curating the album, they were just untitled instrumentals, or if they always had names associated with a particular meal, because when you put them on the album, I wonder if they're meant to be like these seeks to transition between tracks, or if they are meant to represent some kind of theme on the album.
Yep, great question. They were pretty much untitled. Larry did The first three, I did the fourth one, Dinner Time. And there's a weird story about that one, which I'll tell you. But Larry did them. They were untitled. We had to have them on the record because they were so Beanpole. And it was like each of those songs, we showed up to record at Larry's house, Adam and I. We pull up a car, go into a studio, and Larry says, "Hey, look what I recorded." Click. And we're like, just jaws on the floor. Going like, it can't get any more Beanpole than this. This is the ultimate Beanpole. He used the process, by the way. He used the process. He pulled the wool out from the rug out from under his own legs, and he saw to it there was no way it was going to sound polished. He did another thing which I love is he plays lots of clarinet. He's all over Beanpole with clarinet, by the way.
Yeah, he's told us about playing the clarinet and
he's wonderful.
Just letting it fly. Yeah.
He does. So he did it on his recordings too. And they're so funny. And when you listen to them, I picture, I can see like some Beanpole. I kind of picture these long, lanky legs going, I mean, Larry so got it. So they had to be on the record, but they didn't have titles. And so I came up with the titles and I figured, okay, I'm gonna divide them sort of evenly throughout the record. And I'm gonna name them after the various meals. Yeah. So that was that was a theme. So the last one, Dinner Time, that's me.
Okay.
That's a wacky one. That's the one that that was not meant to be a Beanpole recording or any recording. I was living with Adam Gates in Berkeley. In fact, we were right next to this hot dog stand, Top Dog. And it was like this horrible seedy place we lived in. It was filthy and awful, but we had a great time. And one day, Adam was like, "Hey, look what I got, Dirk!" And he'd got a guitar, and it had one of those whammy bars on it. And I don't even know what kind of guitar it was. I'm like, I've never tried one of those. Can I try it? He's like, "Yeah, have fun." So I'm like, that's hilarious. And Adam had it's called a Porta Studio. It was a 4-track cassette recorder, but you can only record 2 tracks at a time. Tascam, like one of the primitive first ones. Okay. And again, only controls are volume and balance, and that's about it. And he had a little Casio keyboard, like one of the little ones.
Yeah.
So I sit down with the guitar and I'm going, well, this is hilarious. And then Adam's like, "I'm going to go get dinner." So he goes in the kitchen and makes himself top ramen or something, And while he's doing it, I go press record, and that's what came out. So I didn't write that. That's just it just came out like that. And then Adam comes back. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "I just did a song." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Look," played it for him, and he just fell over laughing. And so he was the one who insisted that it goes on the album.
That's one of my favorite songs on the album, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Here's my rendition of Dinner Time.
That's the best. Missing chicken.
Yeah.
I love these people are so happy. They're their eyes are like,
yeah, they're always smiling and they're always wall-eyed.
Yeah, I love wall-eyed. I love wall-eyed. And that's my favorite thing. That's awesome. But yeah,
Derek, I'm also curious about. Well, you cleared up a lot of stuff about his name is Beanpole with all the anecdotes that you shared. But I'm still curious about something.
Go ahead.
So when this album came out, I had to look up what Beanpole meant because I had never heard that expression before. And I found several definitions online, but I think the right one is it appears to be kind of a derogatory term to refer to somebody who is really tall. So
yes.
Is that the right one?
That's the right one.
All right. So I guess this character is this really tall guy that is also really elusive and really shy.
Yeah, he's kind of supposed to be like a hillbilly. Mm-hmm. And he's based on a real person who I met. I don't know who this person was, but the story was I went to a Christmas tree farm. And this is probably just before we started recording all this stuff. It's the song, His Name is Beanpole, came out of this, the name Beanpole. I went to a Christmas tree farm and there was a guy who was bringing the trees out, I think. And I just have this really vague memory of him, but he made a huge impression on me because there's something about him. He just seemed funny to me, and he didn't speak. He didn't talk. And I thought it was good. Wow. He could talk, but he didn't want to. And I just remember being kind of I'm like, this guy's a character. And I really liked him. And I thought he's tall and lanky and long legs. And I just thought, he's like a beanpole of a man. And I'm all, Beanpole. And that's where it came from. I told Adam about it, and we had a good long laugh about it. And then Adam came up with this sound. He's like, here's the sound that Beanpole makes. And that's the sound you hear him making at the beginning of the song. But Adam came up with that first when I told him about Beanpole. He said, that's how the guy talks. And we were like, that's great. I love it. And so that's where that came from.
Wow.
Wow, man. Wow. So you might have also inspired Slender Man, is what you're telling me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I have a question, like just to have a completely accurate picture of the complete catalog of Beanpole. So the Led Zeppelin thing and the Go-Go thing is not really Beanpole.
Right.
Hillbilly is Lost, as far as you're aware. And from the SoundCloud dump, Merchant Tech is kind of a Derek track.
Yeah.
Mr. Duck, Lincoln, those are Beanpole, right?
Those are Beanpole.
Where is Fred is also Beanpole.
It could have been, yes.
Card Walker, Babyhead, and All My Kin are also Beanpole.
Absolutely.
So I guess Integrated Child Circuit and Donut are Derek tracks.
No, Integrated Circuit Child should be a Beanpole track.
Okay, well, that one is amazing. The guitar work on that song is fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's all me. I played all the instruments on that. That was, here's why I say that's Beanpole. It's because it is part one of a song we used to play as a live band called Integrated Circuit Child Part 2.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, this is like, it's not on tape. There's no recording of it.
Okay.
It's all in here. Wow. But we learned to play this impossibly complicated progressive rock song, basically. And we just thought, wouldn't it be hilarious if this band plays this really epic, difficult song with lots of parts and, progressive rock, Rush and King Crimson and Genesis, and let's do that. Let's do one of those. And so it was Integrated Circuit Child, and we played it live, and we enjoyed it. It was hard to play, but it was fun. And we're like, oh, this is so cool, and we're going to surprise people because we seem kind of like a joke band. But then we do this, and so people are like, wait a minute, I think they know how to play their instruments. And so Integrated Circuit Child Part 1, which is on the SoundCloud thing, was me trying to get something going so we could do both the songs back to back. It was meant for the band. So what that basically is, I recorded it using the usual, process. It's a little more polished than your typical Beanpole stuff, but it's still the same thing. I'm just kind of blasting through it. So
that explains a lot, because it does stand out from the other tracks because of its technical quality.
It's a little better, yeah. Maybe it kind of doesn't sound very Beanpole-y, but it was intended for the band.
I'm wondering why the album is titled All My Kin, but All My Kin is missing from the record.
Exactly. Here's why. Because when it was time to come up with a title for the album, I was actually thinking about a second album, because there was a joke to me that I thought was really, really funny, which was, what is the funniest second album title I could think of? And it was Beanpole Improves.
Right.
Well, that's just funny
out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Beanpole Improves. So I'm like, well, if that's going to be it, then I got to take this title, like All My Kin, and stick it into the title of the first album, and they would kind of work together. So there was a little bit of long-term thinking into the future. So that's why. And it is from that song, indeed. Wow.
Okay.
All My Kin.
I also wanted to point out, Derek, since you've shared like all of this amazing insight about, the technical aspect of the tracks, the way they were recorded, and the amazing musicianship, it reminds me of an anecdote I heard, while standing in line for a Primus show. Some people I was talking to were remembering like different experiences that they had with the Q&As with Les Claypool. And they told me that there was one occasion where somebody brought up Beanpole during a Q&A. And Les Claypool was kind of like, no, I have no idea about that. I had nothing to do with that. No, I don't know what you're talking about. That was like his stance. But now I realize that he doesn't want to take credit for something that he had no direct involvement in. I mean, he plays drums on Chicken Boy,
yes,
but Beanpole is basically your creation. It's your work.
I think so. I mean, I hadn't heard this story before, but I seem to remember Les never wanting to sound like he was too involved. But there's a number of reasons. Part of that is absolutely, I think you're right. It's probably some of that. He's like the nicest, sweetest man. I mean, yeah, this is so cool. But also, I think he also wanted to kind of keep the mystery. I mean, we're blowing apart all the mystery right here. There ain't,
Yeah.
I told you everything. But I think, I'm sure at the time he was thinking, let's just keep it kind of mysterious. It's like there's a beanpole something out there. I think he also liked the idea that there were like MP3s going around and like hidden, like people trading files here and there. That's cool. I think he was kind of playing into that a little bit. He's like, me, I don't know what you're talking about. I have nothing to do with it. But he had a lot to do.
I think Robert Stack would be proud of us for solving all these mysteries tonight. Derek, I really appreciate you helping lift the veil on a lot of these things and telling us these stories because, and I find as I get older too, I forget a lot of stuff. And and then my family members are telling me, yeah, you remember that time you took your pants off at Target? I'm like, no, but I'm sure it happened. So just for you to have this wealth of knowledge because, Larry might not remember, Adam might not remember, so-and-so wasn't in the room at the time, but you've got it. Even if only a dozen people get something from this, it's expanded the Beanpole universe. And I got a lot out of it. It's been really great to expand my knowledge because it was this mysterious thing for so long. And just knowing everything that went into creating the music and having this ethos from day one and adhering to it is just, it just makes it all the better. I'm really looking forward to Beanpole Improves in 2032.
Derek, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. I love these songs so much. I have played the album to death. When it came out, at that time I was actually in Denver for Primus, and as soon as I dropped my luggage at my place, the first thing I did was look for a record store. And the closest one was like an hour away. I just memorized the route. I got there. And when I entered the record store, I just told the employee, please give me Beanpole album. She had no clue. She had no clue what I was talking about. So she went to the computer and she told me, oh yeah, we got that. So, so I left the store with the CD and the vinyl in my bag. And it's just like you described, I got lost in the artwork. I was looking at those characters, all night long. And I have played the songs so many times that I have memorized every single detail in them.
Man.
And I absolutely adore the music that you created. And, I don't throw this word around so much, but I think that you are a genius.
Nah. No, indeed. No, I appreciate that. I like having a chance to talk about this stuff because it's all, I think about this stuff, about what's behind it, the stories and all that, but no one's ever really asked me. You guys are the first ones to get it out of me. And I enjoy talking about it. It's fun.
I will echo what Josh said. And I truly hope there's a Beanpole Improves album at some point, because those songs really deserve, to be immortalized in a physical format.
I'd like to. I don't know. We'll see. How long did it take for the first one to come out, right? I think we're gonna have like flying cars and stuff by the time the second one comes out. But I do think about it. I know I have access to a bunch of tracks and some other things that you haven't even heard. Some of the stuff is in here. Just waiting to be recorded and set down. But I'd like to make a second album. And I would love if we could play live again.
Oh, yeah.
I love playing live. Boy, was that fun. Ooh. If I had my way, I would tour.
Wow.
No, that would be amazing.
Oh, yeah. I would love to tour. With these people, they're all my friends. Like, they're wonderful people. And they're also talented and incredible. They work hard. It would be really fun.
Right
but,
on.
Yeah.
So Josh, I am incredibly excited for what is coming next. And for all our listeners, you're about to hear a Primus Tracks exclusive. This is the world premiere of a completely unreleased Beanpole track. Derek, so you're going to play Beanpole Loves an Ice Cream Pop for us, right?
Right, yeah. Just, again, this is, it's even titled, like the version I have, Rough Mix. It's unmastered, which means so the volume will be pretty low. So it's not going to sound big and loud. It'll be kind of quiet. And this was recorded at Matt Weiniger's house. and it's the one and only Beanpole song ever recorded with me, Adam, and Matt.
Wow.
So Matt did all the engineering, and of course he plays drums and keyboards and stuff. And this one was another one of those songs where I kind of showed up with the song written and ready to go, and we arranged it together. It was very much a team effort to come up with the final arrangement. And the idea behind this is that another thing that I find really funny, I have to mention this, is Muzak.
Yeah.
Muzak from the 60s. Bert Kemper, that kind of stuff. Like, blink, 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 And so this song is Beanpole meets Muzak.
Wow.
Right.
Here we go.
Beanpole likes a frozen pop when it's cobalt blue. He will share a Sunday cup lovingly with you. When he hears an ice cream truck, Beanpole runs outside, screaming like a chimpanzee, arms held open wide. Artificial flavoring makes him want to dance and sing a song for me and you, something nice and soothing. Concentrated sugar mass saturates his brain. Why it makes his dendrites glow, no one can explain. Now he's feeling satisfied. Beanpole turns to go back to home in time to watch the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh man!
Wow.
So that is supposed to fade out. It's not mixed, but it's
Yeah.
it's a fade out.
Wow.
Wow, Derek, I cannot believe that that's unreleased. It's a beautiful piece of music.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
those-
Beach Boys in parts too.
Yeah,
Love that.
Those harmonies are amazing, and I think I recognized like some noise reminiscent of Dinner Time during the harmonies.
Yes, right.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, that kind of wobbly guitar thing.
I would let that. I think I'd let that melody go for another 6 minutes at the end there.
Yeah.
That's just fun to hum along to. I was just grooving. That was just so fun.
I was not expecting something so amazing, Derek. This is definitely one of my new favorite Beanpole tracks.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah, that's.
Well, you guys are the only ones who have heard it.
Man,
you're a very select group of people. Other than Adam and Matt and myself, you are the only other people who've heard it.
I'm gonna let Matt know and see his reaction. I want to know what he says after I tell him I heard the secret Beanpole track, dude.
I wonder if he's played it for other people. Maybe he has. Oh, you know what? I did play it for Darren Wilson once. That's right. One time I played it for him, but that's it.
Oh, what a great piece! If that's what the next Beanpole record could sound like, I'm all in. Like,
well,
do a Kickstarter. You'll get my help.
Cool.
Well, thanks so much again, Derek. Really appreciate you sharing so much around Beanpole and being a sport.
It was a privilege, Derek, and thank you so much, for your time, for your insight, and for this song. Really, it's indescribable.
Yeah.
Great. And I want to thank the two of you for having amazing questions. I mean, really deep. You guys know your stuff. And it's a pleasure to talk to you about this. So I had a great time.
Ah, excellent. Thanks a lot, Derek. Hello, Primates. Couple of notes on today's show. Mr. Derek Greenberg got back to us after we recorded, and he recalled that he was, in fact, the person behind beanpoleland.com back in the day, the website that we referred to. You can still find that website on the Internet Archive, Wayback Machine. Give that a try, and you'll see some information about some Beanpole songs, as well as the Spent Poets Recording Diary. I also want to add that you can find Beanpole all over the web, including soundcloud.com/beanpoleland for some of the tracks that were not chosen for the Beanpole record. And you can also find Beanpole on Bandcamp. You can even find them on Instagram at His Name is Beanpole. That's a lot of ways to find Beanpole. Good luck.